On a quiet night in Seoul, when most of the buildings had turned off their lights and only a few vehicles occasionally crossed the street, one of HYB label's buildings still showed light from one floor left behind. The rehearsal room in the upper right corner, the studio that has been a silent witness to the birth of much of BTS's legendary choreography. And it was there, right in front of the mirror that had witnessed his years of struggle, that Park Jimin was seen dancing on his own. Without choreographers, without a team, without production lights or official documentation. Just her, the sweat, the faint music, and her reflection in the mirror. What was he doing there in the middle of the night? The question quickly spread like wildfire among fans who never escaped their subtle radar of the BTS members' activities, especially when there was a long silence before, since BTS went on hiatus to focus on individual activities and military service. Jimin's activities have arguably been one of the most mysterious. He did have time to release his solo album, Face, but after that, his movement felt almost silent. There are not many updates, not many private uploads, and even in the occasion of public meetings or group documentation, the figure appears calmer, more silent, as if it were storing something. So, when a CCTV footage leaked to the fan community showing someone who was very clear was Jimin was practicing in the studio at 2:14 in the morning, the world was instantly transfixed. He appeared to be wearing a black hoodie and training pants, his head was down, and his body was constantly moving as if chasing something he could only see for himself. What is Jim chasing? Is this a regular exercise to keep in shape? Or is he preparing for something far greater, something the world has yet to realize? In the silence he created, there was loud and resounding speculation. Some said he was designing choreography for his second solo project. Others said that Jimin might be involved in a secret project, whether it's a musical, contemporary performance art, or even an international production that requires intensive and independent preparation. And as always, the absence of an official explanation only reinforces these rumors. But more than public speculation, what made the video so touching was Jimin's facial expression. In his elegant but powerful body movements, there was an unusual look in his eyes, sharp, deep, and seemed to be repeating certain emotional fragments. It's not just dancing, it's like spilling something. Anger? Sadness? Regrets? Or just hope? No one knows for sure. But for fans who have followed him for more than a decade, these signs can't be ignored. They knew that if Jimin danced like that, there must be something he was dealing with, or preparing for. Some former staffers who have worked with him say that Jimin has a habit of coming to the studio when no one else is around. It wasn't because he wanted to hide something, but more because he needed total space to blend in with his body. For him, the body is not just an instrument, but a medium of expression. And the evening, when the world is asleep and there are no camera flashes or interruptions from the outside, becomes the most sacred time for him to cultivate taste. That's why the video feels so powerful, not because of the technicality of the dance, but because of the energy. It's like fighting for something. The question is, what is he fighting for? Some fans associate this practice with an issue that has recently started to be discussed. Is Jimin's position as BTS's center and main dancer slowly shifting? Does he have to prove his ability again? This is a sensitive issue, but it is inevitable. Since the members began to focus on solo activities, the map of public perception of each of their abilities has changed. Some members appear more vocal, more dominant in solo projects, while others appear calmer. In this new landscape, every step becomes crucial. And perhaps Jimin's practice was his answer to the changing landscape, that he wasn't finished, that he still had a lot to show for it, but there is a much more personal side to all of this. If we look back on Jimin's journey, from a stressful trainee period to a hesitant debut, to becoming one of the most respected dancers in the industry, then this midnight rehearsal can also be read as a form of resistance to old fears. Perhaps he is returning to his old self, when he still has to prove who he is, not to the world, but to himself. Perhaps this exercise is not for an album or a project, but as a form of reconciliation with himself who was once tired, once wanted to give up, but still survived. And if that's true, then this exercise is the most honest form of therapy ever. In an old interview, Jimin once said, "When I'm not dancing, it feels like I'm losing my way." That sentence sounds simple, but for someone whose life is shaped by dance, it means everything. And so, when he chose to return to the studio, not to perform, not to record content, but simply to dance, it was proof that he was trying to rediscover the direction of his life. Amid all the industry pressure, public demands, and internal expectations, perhaps the only place that could still make her feel free was the dance floor. Shortly after the video went viral, some fans reported that they saw HYB's longtime staff and a contemporary dance coach Jimin had worked with seen entering the building at unusual hours. This further reinforces the notion that exercise is not merely an emotional outlet, but part of systematic preparation. Even one of the photographers who used to work with BTS shared a photo of a silhouette of a person with a body very similar to Jimin standing in the studio in dim light, accompanied by a short caption, "Something is growing in silence." It was from there that the discussion began to move into the creative sphere. Many suspected that Jimin was preparing something unusual. Maybe this is not an ordinary solo comeback, but rather a performance art, a blend of music, dance, narration, and visuals that tells a side of himself that he could never express in the BTS format. An artistic statement that may be closer to the realm of an art gallery or a theatrical stage than a K-pop concert. And if so, then the world should be prepared to see a completely new side of Jimin, a side that has only been glimpsed at BTS concerts, but has never gotten a full stage of its own. And of course, all this is still speculation. But don't all great stories always start with this kind of silence? Jimin is not the type of artist who likes to give half measures. If he is working on something, then he will fully dive into it. He will not appear in front of the camera to say, "Wait for my surprise," because he knows that his surprise will feel stronger if it is born from public ignorance. In an industry where there is too much theatricality and distraction, Jimin's calm and deep approach feels refreshing. He not only wants to captivate the eye, but to touch the soul, and when we look back at that 26-second clip, with every beat of his foot, every turn of his body, every breath vaguely recorded by the CCTV microphones, we know that something is growing. Something that comes from within, not from industry pressure, not from a desire to compete, but from a personal desire to deliver something important, whether it's pain, whether it's love, whether it's freedom. But for sure, Jimin was preparing to say something. And he chose body language as his medium, and perhaps, just through his dancing body, Jimin could convey things that were too deep to be spoken. The movements are no longer just a technique, but become an inner language, a language understood only by those who really see, not just watch. And when the time comes, when this project finally comes to the fore, the world will realize that those silent exercises in the middle of the night are not ordinary preparations. They are the beginning of an emotional outburst that has been waiting for a long time to be released.